Chloroform. It was a bright sunny day with a temperate wind in a busy border city by the beach. However, this selected area wasn't too busy at all. It was just south of the college area, near where the locally ran businesses on the beach were at the boardwalk. Out of the hustle and bustle of the city and beach life, many would find themselves attending worship services at the local Hindu temple. Yes, there was a free food offering to visitors, pure yet simple vegan food, and all that was accepted were donations. There were free worship services every morning and celebrations of worshiping God, of Godhead. Every weekend, the people that lived at the temple were all practicing through the praise of God. It was known that there was a known terrorist cell in the area targeting the temple. Their angle was to kill anything that got in their way. They would build bombs, smuggle drugs, transport weapons, and people. They had previously attacked the people of the Hare Krishna temple in this local coastal area. It was not new. They felt they disgraced the Islamic world. However, there were some Muslims in the traditional Islamic belief that would visit the temples such as the Hare Krishnas. Their goal was the vision of sanctity some time ago. There was the Islamic general that made a visit to the temple. He walked in and gave his best wishes to Godhead and left. The next week's celebratory supper, he sat down on the hard-tiled floor like everyone else and ate. It was just rice and curried vegetables, juice, and some rice milk, a delicacy to the Hindu people. He talked with others and listened to the chants of those who worshipped. He seemed to be enjoying himself in such a way he was open to new things that he was not open to before. That is when the peace talks began. In turn, they were just dares to make music and to shake hands at the celebration, but turned into something new and daring. New music would be held at the temple every time a new musician would show up. It was said to give people courage, so it was thought of as the tune of God. There were many musicians from all over the world that had played at this temple, yet those who stood out were a group of musicians from the recent past. They were all published musicians who made a little money. However, it was not enough to survive. They would play, and their music would likely become radio songs about what they were experiencing. This went on for years of time, even with the possibility of celebrations getting out of hand. It was just known fun was to be had. During the celebrations there was dance, and one thing would lead to another and then another. At one midday celebration there was dancing and fighting, until two people known to be attackers tried harming those few people who were celebrating. They took out a gun and pointed it at everyone there at the temple. One individual named Sam distracted the gunman, while another grabbed the gun and pointed it right at his very own chest. He rested assured that the gun could not blow back without room against his chest. And it did not. As though a trick, the moment the attacker was distracted, Sam's acquaintance Barney grabbed the gun from the attacker, then shot him in the shoulder. It was a very serious wound. That is when both attackers fled the scene. They believed they just were about to witness a kidnapping. That's when they began to watch the temple with their hawk eyes. The watching went on for weeks and then for months, until they began to forget. No one would believe a word they were saying. It was all too much for them to take in. They were not understanding. Barney would still go to the temple to play music, while Sam moved to the Northeast United States. However inseparable, they could never forget. At random, Sam would go back to the temple. He had a job at the National Guard and request Barney would meet him there. One day this happened, and Sam and Barney were once again attacked. This time it was a different group of people. The attackers had more than one gun this time. They had a bottle and rag of chloroform. They grabbed Sam and Barney. They then smothered them until they passed out. They woke up in a daze. They felt very drugged. Eventually, they tried very hard to get out of being pinned down, but it still didn't work. That is when a police officer named Officer Martinez walked in with Detective Doe and tried stopping the attackers. It still did not work. The attackers grabbed both officers and drugged them with chloroform. That is when Barney had time to escape the grip of the attackers. Barney rushed one of the attackers and grabbed his gun. Barney then shot every one of the attackers except one. However, all the attackers got away. No one believed Officer Martinez because they couldn't verify any of this information. Detective Doe was already set to go overseas, and his story was also not able to be verified. There were no video cameras present. 1 month later, the temple management had installed surveillance cameras for security to see who was coming in and out. Sam and Barney were very frustrated. Again, no one would believe them and anything they were saying. They needed to go to support groups to talk about these frustrations. Some believed them and some did not. The chloroform greatly affected Sam, Barney, and the officers' memories. Recalling this story, they still have a hard time piecing it together. It is known that Barney was diagnosed with a psychiatric disorder and was never able to become a military officer or police officer because of his mental health concerns due to the incident. Sam also had mental issues. His were of post-traumatic stress disorder. Officer Martinez and Detective Doe have some issues, but were able to obtain waivers for their undisclosed problems.